that's a good question. All of that is the wrong way to answer or to start hard interview questions. I'm Ashley. I'm the lead mentor with Mentor Me. And today I'm going to talk about how to answer hard interview questions with ease. It can be so overwhelming and a little bit scary to be in an interview and not know how to answer the question. You feel like you're stuck, you feel panicked, you start to sweat, you start to stutter, you start to get really overwhelmed. And it can be really stressful to be in an interview and not really know how to answer the question. But as a career coach and career strategist, I'm an expert at helping professionals really understand what they're good at and how to leverage what they're good at to answer interview questions with ease and to position them as the top candidate. So today we're going to go through some of the hardest questions in interviews, some of those questions that often get people tricked up. And I'm going to talk to you about how to answer those questions so that you can answer them from a place of expertise, so you can answer them from a place of confidence, and so that you are never stuck again, not really knowing how to answer an interview question. So I would say that in general, as you're preparing for an interview, whether it's in person or it's, online, virtually via Zoom or some other platform, you are totally welcome to have your notes in front of you, right? So I think that a lot of times people feel like, okay, I'm in an interview, I need to have everything off the top of my head, I need to be rapid fire question, I need to just kind of know my background and experience for the last 15 years and be able to answer any question at the ready. And that's not realistic. You are welcome to have notes in front of you. You are welcome to have, your resume, your cover letter, any materials that you submitted for the role. You're welcome to have that in front of you, unless they give you some hard and fast rule that you can't bring a pen or a piece of paper into the room. You are welcome to have your notes with you. I will tell you that one of my top strategies is to use blank 8 by 10.5 or 8 by 11 computer paper. So just like printer paper, like the blank sheets of paper, and to write my notes on that. I don't want to be flipping through a notebook. I don't want to be like kind of flipping through like a legal pad. I want something where I can just have my notes, set out on a piece of paper and be able to refer to them. So that's a strategy that I teach in my programs and one that I use as well in interviews. So you have your notes there, you're in the interview. In addition to answering the questions well, one of the things that I always teach my mentees is that in an interview, you want to be clear, concise, and confident, right? So in an interview, you want to be clear, concise, and confident. Often in interviews, folks feel like very nervous, very overwhelmed, very jittery. And I get it, right? Like an interview is an opportunity for you to share your expertise. It's an opportunity for the employer to see you and see the value of your expertise. And you want to come off as, someone that can do the job well, right? And so that can make you nervous. But I think the important thing to remember when you're in an interview is that they have a job to fill, right? Like they have a job to fill. They have gaps in their organizations. And that's why they posted this job, because they're looking for an expert to fill them. And they've invited you here, right? So you're already ahead of the game. If you're in the interview, you're already ahead of the game. I'm not saying that there's nothing to be nervous about. I think that, the situation absolutely can be nerve-wracking, but I also just want to remind you that you were invited in the room, right? You're an invited guest in that space. And so you can feel comfortable. You can put your feet flat on the floor. You can push those shoulders back and down away from your ears, try not to be in the interview like this. You can, have open arm gestures. You can sit up tall. That's going to help you project. That's going to help you speak like the expert that you are. And you can go into the interview feeling really confident that they've invited you to talk about your expertise, and that's what you're absolutely going to do when you're there, right? So you've got your notes in front of you. You've checked your nerves. You've got your posture together. Now they start to ask you questions, and you really want to follow those 3 C's, right? The best way to answer an interview question is to follow those 3 C's: clear, concise, and confident, right? Those 3 C's are going to carry you really far in being successful in answering hard interview questions. You want to be clear. You want to avoid, well, I don't know, good question, let me think. Like none of that. You want to be really clear and get right to the point of the answer to their question, right? You want to be clear. You want to be concise, right? I think that what I often see is that people are maybe too concise, but you also don't want to be too verbose, right? Like it shouldn't take you 7 minutes to get through an interview answer, but you also shouldn't answer the interview question in 20 seconds, right? Like you need to find some middle ground. This is not a timed, most interviews are not timed. They're not like, okay, you have 3 minutes to answer this question in 3 minutes, like it's typically not like that, but you do want to be concise. You want to be comprehensive. You want to answer the question comprehensively, but you also want to be concise. You want to be clear and concise. And that comes with, being able to, understand what the question is, speak to the question directly, so clearly and concisely. So like put a bow on the beginning and end of your question. And then finally, so you want to be clear, you want to be concise, and you want to be confident in your answer. You want to avoid saying things like, well, did I answer the question? Or, is that clear? Or I hope that covered everything, right? They're asking you a question, you're providing an answer. You don't have to ask in the moment, like, was that clear? Or, did I get it correctly? Or does that answer your question? You don't have to ask for confirmation of you answering their question in the conversation. Instead, you want to clearly, concisely, and then confidently speak to your expertise in an interview in a way that you're ending on the note you want to end on, not like, well, does that answer your question? Or like that nervous giggle, or I hope that made sense. You want to say what you're saying and then be quiet, right? Silence is a tool in an interview, and it can be used to like end the conversation, or not in the conversation, but to end your statement, right? You don't have to kind of go on and start talking in circles and get nervous and do that nervous laugh, and it kind of gets destabilized. You want to just end what you're saying and wrap it up. So we know we need to be clear, we need to be concise, we know we need to be confident. And so with that framework in mind, then what I find some of the hardest questions to answer in an interview are some of the most nebulous, right? So the age-old question of, tell me a little bit about yourself, or, tell me, why you're interested in this role. That can be the most challenging question to answer in an interview, because you're not ever sure, what they're looking for. You're not ever sure, what they expect to hear from you. Sometimes those questions feel like a hidden agenda, right? Like, oh my goodness, like, do you want me to talk about my dog and my childhood trauma? Or do you want me to talk about my last job and how I really loved it, but no, I need to make a transition? Do you want me to talk about how I really like this job, but I see some red flags and I have some questions about them? Like, I think that when it comes to answering questions in an interview, one of the hardest questions is one that's very common, is that like, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? So the Mentor Me framework has a strategy to answer this very specific question, and it's called the I am statement, right? So it's called the I am statement. It's a short statement about who you are, how you show up in the world, what your demonstrated background and experience is, and how you want to leverage that demonstrated background and experience into this organization. I posted a graphic in my feed earlier this week that talks about the script for this, and I think that I can bring it up. So let me see if I can find it, and I'll bring it up. Yes. So the question is, tell me a little bit about yourself. And this is the script that my mentees use. This is the script that I teach that helps high achieving professionals speak about themselves in a way that's human, that's not robotic, that speaks to their expertise and speaks to their value, but also answers the question in a way that's going to really help employers know what they need to know about you to position you as a top candidate. So in the spirit of, you are in an interview and they ask you to tell me a little bit about yourself, you want to say, my name is, right? So I might say my name is Ashley A. Adams. And then you want to say what your impact area or desired impact area is. By impact area, I mean like industry or area of expertise that you have experience in. So I might say, hi, my name is Ashley, a senior level career development expert with more than 15 years of professional experience in helping high achieving professional women make more money, have more impact, and advance their careers to the highest level, right? That would be me filling out the first paragraph. So you heard me say my name, you heard me say my level, senior level, you heard me say a career development expert. That's my area of impact, right? But in the work that I do with Mentor Me, that's the work that I do. I'm an expert in that. So you heard me talk about like the fact that I'm an expert in career development. And then I talk about how many years of experience I have. I say with over, 15 years of experience with demonstrated expertise in helping professionals in corporate, nonprofit, and educational leadership make more money, strength number one, have more impact, strength number two, and position them to the highest levels of leadership, strength number three, right? So I'm giving a very specific example about who I am, what level I'm at, the background that I have, and the skills that I have to do that, right? So I serve a lot of folks who work in the nonprofit industry. So let me use a nonprofit example. So you might say, my name is Kanika, a mid-level direct service provider in children, family, and youth services with more than 6 years of demonstrated experience in helping low-income mothers reunite with their children after separation, helping families find community-based resources for housing insecurity and food insecurity, and helping families use federal aid to stabilize their economic situation, right? So that's an example of someone in, who's maybe a social worker or a case manager. They want to talk about their level. They want to talk about their impact area or desired impact area. They want to talk about the years of experience they have, and then they want to give 3 specific places where they have strengths, right? Where they have expertise. So then the next part of this question says, this expertise is evidenced by my work with blank, where I've done blank, right? So basically the blanks are to give you an opportunity to provide your expertise in the marketplace. So for example, you might say, this expertise is evidenced by my work with more than 100 families over the last year that I've helped connect with community-based resources to interrupt housing and food insecurity. My work with these families to, get on public aid, to connect with food banks, and to learn, how to find affordable, healthy food in the community has led to, an increase in, healthy eating habits among the families that I serve, and reduced, negative health outcomes related to, diabetes and high blood pressure. Right, for example. So you want to be able to provide a very specific example of something you've done and the outcome that it's driven. And this is really important, both what you've done and the outcome that it's driven, because so often in interviews, people are really good at saying what they've done, but they're not really good at saying what impact it's had, right? So again, people are really good at saying, oh, I did this, I did that, I have this experience, I have that experience, but they're terrible at saying the outcome of their expertise, the outcome of the work that they did. So again, it's not enough for you to just say, I'm a great team player, I'm a great hard worker, I'm great at project management. You also need to say how you being a great team player and you being a great hard worker and you being great at project management has resulted in outcomes related to the things that you say you're good at, right? And when someone asks you to tell them about yourself, that's what you want to tell them. You want to tell them, I'm an expert at this, and here's an example of that expertise, and here's an example of the outcomes that expertise has driven over the course of my career, right? It's not enough to just say you're good at something. It's not enough to just say you're passionate about something. It's not enough. You need to be able to say what you're good at, give an example of what you're good at, and say what the outcome of you being good at that is, right? So as for me specifically, if I was using an example of my work in career development, I might say, my expertise in career development is evidenced by my work with thousands of women in corporate, nonprofit, and educational leadership, where I've been able to help my mentees secure more than $1.5 million in salary increases, raises, and bonuses, and have helped them be more confident about their career outcomes, secure higher level roles, and have stability in their career. Right? So I'm not just saying what I do and what the outcomes are, but I'm also saying the outcomes and the impact it's had on the lives of my clients and my customers, right? Alrighty. So then the final paragraph says, in addition to this work, I've also demonstrated the ability to solve problems related to strength number 4 and strength number 5, which is evidenced by my work, again, where you want to provide a specific example and a specific outcome, right? So you want to give, in the first paragraph, you give 3 examples and you provide 3 strengths and then you provide an example. And then the last paragraph, you're providing strengths 4 and 5 and you're providing another example. Again, this is what's called an I am statement. It shouldn't take you more than maybe 3 minutes or so to say this. And it's something that you have to practice. In my mentorship programs, this is one of the first things that I teach my clients. This is something that they practice over and over again. And this is something that we work on because this is one of the most common things that people will ask you in interviews. And you want to be very clear on exactly what you're good at, be able to give very specific examples of how you're good at it, and then give even more better examples of what the outcome of you being good at it is, right? So again, this is a very common interview question. It can be very hard for people to answer because you're not really sure, what people are looking for or what they're expecting, but this is the way to answer it, okay? So let me know if this was helpful. Throw some hearts up on the screen if this was helpful, if this reminded you that you not only need to be good at something, but you need to have examples of how you're good at it and examples of the outcomes that it drives. Let me know if this was helpful, if this was supportive, and let me know if you have any questions about the I am statement. And so often, the reason why we aren't successful in interviews is because we don't feel confident. We don't feel assured. We feel like all over the place, right? But when you have a script, when you have a framework, when you know how to answer the question, then you're so much more confident because you're not going in there like, well, I'm not sure. Let me see. You're going in there saying, I know the kinds of things that I want this employer to know about me and I'm prepared to tell them, right? So thank you so much for that feedback, at tosuccess.info. I'm so glad that it was helpful to you. And I'm so glad that it really helped you be more prepared for your interviews. So let's talk about the second hardest question, right? And so another question that folks find really hard to answer in interview questions is, why are you leaving your former employer, right? Why do you want to leave your former employer? Why are you leaving your current employer? Or why are you looking for a new job, right? Maybe you hate your current job, and you're like, I hate my boss, I hate my coworkers, I'm so bored and I got to get out of here. But that's definitely not what you should say in the interview. Maybe in your current role, you really love it and you're really passionate about it, but you're not making enough money. They don't pay enough, and they've been paying you pennies for years. You definitely don't want to go in an interview and say that either, right? So how do you honor, the work that you've done, the background that you have, your truth, and, answer the question in a way that's going to not position you as someone that's running away from something, right? So often a very hard interview question is, why are you leaving your former employer? Or why are you leaving your current employer? Or why this role at this time? Sometimes it's asked like that. And so the way that you want to answer this question is that you want to first speak to how proud you are of the work that you've done at your current employer, right? So you might say, I'm so proud of the outcomes that I've driven, over the course of my career, with the federal government, working within the Navy. Over the last 7 years, I've done this and I've done this and I've done this, right? So you want to list what you've done there, what outcomes you've driven, what work you've done, why you're so proud of what you've done there. And then you want to say, given the success in this role, I'm looking to expand my portfolio by et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you want to position yourself as an expert that's done really great work in your current role with your current organization, and you're looking to bring that expertise to a new organization. You can also say things like, and obviously, the key here is that we want to operate in integrity, right? So this is not a live about how to get over on a new employer, or how to lie in interviews, right? We want to always operate in integrity. So I want you to take the examples that I'm using and figure out what if any of these parts are true for you, and make that a part of your answer, right? But sometimes people leave because, they're looking to supervise a bigger team. They're looking for more responsibilities. They're bored in their current work. They're not really engaged, right? And so you might say something like, given my expertise in my current role, I'm really looking to expand my portfolio and share my expertise in supervising and training staff with a larger team, right? Like, I'm looking to supervise a larger team. I'm looking to, expand to new markets. I'm looking to travel. And I know this role allows for me to travel, so that's why I'm interested in it, right? So you want to talk about the things that are a part of the role that you're applying for that really make you a desirable candidate, and that's prompting you to leave your current organization or a former organization. And then you say, which is attracting me to this role and prompted my desire to transition, right? So you want to speak to what you're already good at. You want to speak to the success that you've had. You want to talk about the fact that you're looking to transition because you've had so much success there, and you want to grow, change, advance, start doing new things. And that's what attracted you to this role, because you saw those things in this role. And that's what's prompting the desire to transition, right? And, this works really well too for those of you who maybe have a gap in your resume. I think this is something that often, my mentees will ask me about, like, Ashley, I've been out of work for 3 months. I've been out of work for 6 months. I'm nervous, about what they might say if I have a gap on my resume. How do I answer questions like that? So you can, if someone brings up, why, I noticed that, you left your last role 6 months ago or last year, why are you looking to come back in the workforce, or, what happened there? You can use this same script. You can use this same framework. You can talk about what you did in your former role, what you're proud of, what you did there, how you see some similarities in this role, or how you see some significant differences, and you want to be a part of those differences, and that's what's prompting you to make the transition. So, again, we want to operate in integrity. We don't want to lie or, stretch the truth in any way, but we also want to be thoughtful that, you should not go in an interview bashing your former employer, saying, well, they ain't pay enough, or they didn't respect me, or they didn't value me. Like, that's not the kind of tone and the kind of tenure and the kind of energy you want to go into an interview with. You really want to go into the interview hopeful and happy and positive, and that will make sure that you position yourself in the best light. So again, if this was helpful to you, if this is a question you kind of been dreading, just let me know in the comments. Ashley, this is helpful. This gives me a good script. If you have any questions about this specific question, or questions around leaving your former employer, why you're looking for a new job, gaps in your resume, drop those in the comment section. I want to make sure I answer those as well. Alrighty, so we're going to go to the last and final question. This is a hard one. This is one that people, often get asked, and they're never really sure how to answer it. And what's your greatest weakness and how you've overcome it, right? Like, let me know if this is one that you've been dreading, one that makes you nervous, one that freaks you out. And I will tell you that the common knowledge or the common rhetoric, the Googleable answer on this is terrible. Like, let me be the first to say, let me pop that bubble. Let me bust that myth. A lot of people, if you Google how to answer this question, it's always like, I'm just, such a hard worker. I'm a perfectionist. And so, my greatest weakness is that I'm a perfectionist and I do everything perfectly. And sometimes that, holds me back, and it's like, girl, you're a perfectionist. Like, girl, stop lying. Nobody's a perfectionist. Nobody's that concerned about doing everything so perfectly. And if you are, that's a really terrible weakness. Like, that means that you have no perspective on real life, because nothing is perfect. That positions you in a horrible light. So, please, for the love of God, stop telling people that you're a perfectionist. Stop telling people that you're perfect. That this is a horrible, horrible, horrible answer, right? Let me give you a better way to talk about what you're not good at. So, when you get asked what your greatest weakness is, this is an opportunity for you to be honest. This is an opportunity for you to be vulnerable. This is an opportunity for you to answer the question in earnest, to answer the question with some integrity, right? Like, do not get up there lying. Do not get up there telling people what you think they want to hear. Just be honest about what you're not good at. And so let me give you an example. One of my biggest challenges is that I'm dyslexic, and I'm a terrible speller. I'm not a very detail-oriented person, and my dyslexia coupled with my terrible spelling means that if I'm writing an email, I'll likely skip a word, or I'll spell a word wrong. I will spell somebody's name wrong, even though they emailed me and their name is in the signature. Like, it's a problem. I know that it's a problem. And, as an executive level leader, you don't want to look sloppy in an email. You don't want to look messy in an email. You don't want to look like you didn't care enough to spell somebody's name right. Like, it's a problem, right? But I'm really earnest about that. I'm really honest about that. I'm willing to say that, I've been really challenged over the course of my career with my dyslexia, and, my lack of detail orientation when it comes to spelling and grammar, particularly in emails. I work to overcome this by, prepping my emails and scheduling them, and then scheduling a time to go back and read my emails before they get sent, and partnering with strong administrative staff who can draft messages for me ahead of time so that I can make sure that I'm, clear, concise and accurate in my messages before sending, right? And so I can speak to what I'm challenged by, and I can speak to how I've overcome it. And one of the things that I'm really intentional about, and one of the things I invite you to adopt in your strategies and your interviews, is to speak to how you collaborate and partner with others on weaknesses to overcome them, right? So I think oftentimes we feel like if I have a weakness, I just have to say I'm really bad at it, and I have to just say, but I'm continuing to work at it. And that's not a good thing. If you know you're not good at something, stop trying to do it all the time. Right? This is one of the first things I teach my mentees in my programs. If you're not good at something, why do you continue to do it all the time? Right? Like, girl, find something else to do. Get a partner, delegate, get some software, get a strategy, get some resources, but don't continue to try to do things that you are horrible at. Get some help. And so for me, one of the things that I'm really intentional about is getting help, getting supportive help. And for my dyslexia, that's something that I've done. And so you really want to think about what you're not good at. One of the things that's important here, and let me be clear, is that you want to ensure that you're not saying you're not good at something that is a core competency of the role. So for example, let's say you are applying for a role in project management, and and you're like, one of my greatest weaknesses is, partnering with multiple people on a project. I just like to put my head down and do the work. Well, girl, that means you're not going to be a great project manager, sis. Like, you're really going to struggle with this job, because the job is mostly partnering with other people to get things done. Pulling in stakeholders, gaining buy-in from people who don't directly report to you, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to make sure that you're choosing a competency that's not central to the role. Now, in my mentorship programs, one of the things that I do with my mentees is that we go through, at the very beginning of my programs, we go through what they're good at and what they're not good at. And we honor what they're not good at in their job search, so that we know we're very intentional about not searching for jobs in a place that's full of things that they're not good at. So my mentees are able to avoid this. But if you're just taking this strategy and this script right off the shelf and you've not gone through my programs, just make sure that you're not choosing a competency that's central to the role. Otherwise, you're going to talk yourself right out of the job. Because one of the greatest weaknesses that my mentees come to my programs with, what they often say is like time management. I'm terrible at time management. I'm terrible at time management. And I'm like, are you terrible at time management, or do you not have help? Right? Like, I think sometimes we take societal issues as personal failures, right? So I serve a lot of women and women identified people. I serve a lot of mothers. I serve a lot of middle-aged women who are also caring for parents and other loved ones. And so I'm like, do you struggle with time management, or does your partner just need to help you with these kids? Like, do you struggle with time management, or do you need to ask your siblings to help out with your parents? Like, do you struggle with time management, or do you not have help? Do you struggle with time management, or do you just not use your calendar tool in Google? Do you struggle with time management, or are you overwhelmed and overburdened at your work so you don't have any free time to yourself? Again, I really like to dig into things, because words mean things, and you might not be struggling with time management. You might not just have no help, girl. And so we just need to we need to get clear on what the issue truly is. So and let me just move this graphic so that I can talk about this a little bit more. So that's something that I like to spend a lot of time with. Are you struggling, or do we need more perspective on the issue? An actual weakness that my mentees often, a weakness that they have is administrative tasks, right? So they're like, I'm not detail oriented. I hate doing paperwork. I hate doing mundane tasks at work. And so to that, again, this you maybe hate doing it because it's beneath you. And I don't mean beneath you, you're above that, you're better than that. I mean, you are a strategic thinker. You're a strategic thinker. You're a visionary. You're a person who should be, developing strategy and implementing strategy. You should not be doing, like menial administrative tasks. That's something that should be delegated to an administrative professional, right? Like someone who does administrative tasks. And so sometimes it's role based, right? It's like, yes, of course it's a weakness because it's out of scope for your work. Your scope, shouldn't be focused there. Another weakness that, I've seen, women I serve have is supervision and leadership. Right. And so again, this is something that we want to know about ourselves. And then we want to make sure that we are only applying for roles that would not have us in a supervision capacity. Right. And there is no shame in that. There are lots of high paying individual contributor roles, right? Like that's available to you. You do not have to, you can still secure a higher level role and make more money and not be supervising a whole bunch of people. If that's something that you're not good at, but we want to know that though, before we apply to a job that's supervising 5 people, because what we don't want to do is get in an interview and they ask us what our greatest weakness is and we say supervision, right? Like that's not going to be a good look. So we want to make sure that we avoid that. I think, another weakness that my clients sometimes have is delegation. And this is a tricky one. We want to be careful with this one because, you don't want to seem like a control freak. You don't want to seem like someone who can't partner and collaborate and see the value in others. But if you talk about it from a retrospective, like I've really struggled with delegation over the course of my career, because unfortunately I was working in teams that weren't very collaborative. However, I'm really proud to say that over the last 2 years, I've built trust with my teams and I've hired 2 new staff members. So I've been able to delegate at a higher level and build trust with those teams. And we're having really amazing outcomes now, because we have the right people on the team and, I built trust with them and they've built trust with me. So you can kind of work through the delegation one, by talking about how it's something that you've really overcome, right? So those are the 3 questions that are hardest to answer in interviews. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Why did you leave your former employer? Why do you have a gap in your resume? And what's your greatest weakness and how you've overcome it? If you have other questions that you want answered by me, you want some insight on how to answer a question that often comes up in interviews and you're just not sure what to do with it, feel free to comment the question in the comment below, or you can send me a DM. I'm happy to answer it. And then I wanted to finally share that I'm accepting new mentees. So if you are a professional woman who is working in corporate, nonprofit, or educational leadership, and you're looking to secure a new role, the time for you to join Mentor Me programs is now. I'm accepting new mentees, and you can take the first step in working with me by scheduling a call on my website at mentor-me.org. That's mentor-me.org. Again, that's mentor-me.org. I am excited to help you and support you in your career development. And I can do that through mentorship. So schedule that call so we can talk more about who you are and how you show up in the world and what you need support with in your career. That's what we'll do on that call. As we wrap here, in an interview, you want to be very careful not to project, right? So they're there to hire you, right? They're there to hire you. So if you go in an interview and say, yeah, delegation is a weakness of mine because these people aren't reliable. And it's like, well, why, why are you working on a team that's unreliable? What are you doing to develop your staff or your peers? How have you overcome it? And you overcoming it can't just be, I just do everything by myself, right? And you overcoming it can't be, I just micromanage everyone else till they get it done. You've got to have a better answer than that. Right? And so if that's something you're struggling with, feel free to reach out. We can schedule a call. We can talk about how you can get some help in that, because we want to make sure that we're positioning you as an expert in the interview, not someone that's just looking for a new job because they're annoyed by their peers or their colleagues. Right? So we want to make sure we are still operating in integrity, of course, but that we're developing an answer that positions us as an expert. And so excited to continue to help you through that. Thanks everyone so much for watching. I'm excited to help you in mentorship. So be sure to schedule a mentor moment with me so we can talk about your career development. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye.